Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Okay, we'll have a little kirtan for 5 minutes. Namo Vishnu Padhaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Vishnu Padhaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami
So welcome everyone to our study, Bhakti Vaibhava. So this is unit number 9, right? You're coming all the way from unit 1. Began in October, was it? Or
November.
Huh?
November.
November, okay. So, well done. Now you're in the 3rd canto, and we're beginning chapter 5 today. So, who was giving chapter 4? Who was teaching? Okay. And how did it end? What happened in chapter 4? What was the connection between chapter 4 and this chapter 5? Do you remember?
Vidura was directed to go and meet Maitreya.
That's right, yes. Direction coming from Uddhava, right? Uddhava was reluctant to give teachings to Vidura. He said, you should go to Maitreya. Where did they meet? Where did Uddhava and Vidura meet? Which place were they?
They were in Vrindavan.
Yes, right. They were somewhere around Govardhan. Yeah, Govardhan. There's a place somewhere there. Anyway, they met there. And where is Maitreya? Hardwar. He's nearby, right? and of course that means walking. You know, it's not like today. You know, you can get a Uber taxi or something take you there. You know, it's quite a distance to go. They met in Vrindavan. Uddhava and Vidura met in Vrindavan, and Uddhava said, you know, I don't think I'm qualified to teach. At least I don't want to commit any offences against Maitreya. You should go to Maitreya and hear from him. He's nearby me, Hardwar. Quite a distance, you know, to go there. Anyway, that's what happened. So, they met there. So Vidura reaches Hardwar, and the chapter begins with Vidura inquiring from this great sage Maitreya. Vidura, of course, is also a great sage. He's also a pure devotee of the Lord. Right? Prabhupada talks about Vidura that he's Yamaraj. And to take on the position of Yamaraj means you have to be a very qualified person, not just any ordinary, you know, hard-hearted person who likes to punish people, you know, but he's a serious, very qualified devotee. So, Vidura is, although he's inquiring from Maitreya, he's a very advanced devotee. He's a very elevated devotee. Yamaraj, of course, is one of the Mahajans, one of the 12 Mahajans, and here he is, he's coming to Maitreya, seeking enlightenment. And Maitreya is respectful to him also. Maitreya appreciates his sense of inquiry. Maitreya is the disciple. Who's the disciple of? Parasara Muni. So he's closely related to Vyasadeva, because Vyasadeva is the son of Parasara Muni. So Vyasadeva and Maitreya, they're like friends. And here's Maitreya. He was so fortunate that when the Lord was departing from the world, Maitreya was there. Maitreya was there with the Lord just before he departed from the world, and at that time the Lord gave some message for Vidura. So Maitreya appreciates the good fortune of Vidura, that the Lord was thinking of Vidura just before he departed from the world, and he left some instructions for Vidura. So this certainly made for a very nice relationship between the two, between Maitreya and Vidura, that they have mutual respect for each other. Vidura is respecting Maitreya. You got it, though? Huh? Yeah, I've already begun. Yeah. I could have brought it myself. I think I have one upstairs myself. You wouldn't be able to find it, I don't think. I'd need to come myself and get it. You want me to go and get it?
I don't know who it looks.
It would be difficult for me to tell you exactly how to. Well, maybe just give me 5 minutes to go and get some adapter for the computer. And we can put it on the screen.
Actually, they asked me, the guy asked me if we could deliver the email. So, we're going to roll service where we can pay somewhere.
Okay. Okay, so you can see on the screen here that just the summaries from this chapter. Of course, you have these in your student handbook. So first section, first 16 verses concerning the meeting between the two, Vidura and Maitreya. Vidura reached Hardwar and there began to inquire from the great sage Maitreya. Vidura's inquiry about A. the Purusha avatar, B. the Viratarup, C. the Lila avatars, D. the different living entities created by Narayan. Vidura extensively glorifies the Lord and the process of devotional service to Him, especially hearing and chanting Krishna Katha. Okay, so this is the first section. Let's go through the chapter. It's chapter 3, we want to be in chapter 5 then. Okay, Vidura's talks with Maitreya. Sukadeva Goswami said, Vidura, the best among the Kuru dynasty, who was perfect in devotional service to the Lord, thus reached the source of the celestial Ganga river, Hardwar, where Maitreya, the great fathomless, learned sage of the world, was seated. Vidura was perfect in gentleness and satisfied in transcendence, inquired from him. Nice description of Vidura. Perfect in gentleness and satisfied in transcendence. Gentleness, learned and gentle. In Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna describes Vidya Vinaya Sampani Brahmani Gavihastani, the learned and gentle Brahmana, quality of a Brahmana. So Vidura, not an ordinary, although he's the son of a Sudra woman and Duryodhana had kicked him out of the palace, but he's actually a very saintly personality. And he's described here the best among the Kuru dynasty, perfect in devotional service to the Lord. And so, very nice glorification of Vidura. So Vidura begins his inquiries to Maitreya, and he describes how everyone in the world is trying to get happiness, usually by their fruit activities. Only one who's aggravated by such activities people are aggravated, they don't get the happiness they want. So that's the nature of material endeavors, that we're trying to get happiness from the material world and we're often disappointed in our efforts, trying to satisfy the demands of the mind. So Vidura appreciates all of these things. So he says therefore to Maitreya, please give us a direction on how one should live for real happiness. We often point out to people in the material world, they don't know what is real happiness. They're struggling, endeavoring for happiness. Often they're thinking, get money, I'll be happy. But it's not true. Kavi Chandra Swami was telling the other day, he was saying how Ambarish Ford had come here in Mayapur with the ashes of his mother, and he was telling the devotees, he said, one thing I learned from my mother was that money doesn't make you happy. He said, although my mother was so rich, he said she wasn't happy, she had no happiness, there was no pleasure in just having money. But this is the illusion people are in. They're thinking, get money, I'll be happy. Some other people, they want fame, they think they'll be happy. Famous people often are the most miserable people. Well, there are many examples of these things. So in the purport, Prabhupada brings up an important point, and he says, out of natural humility, Vidura did not immediately ask about the Lord, but inquired into a subject which would be of a great importance to the common man. And Vidura's real purpose in coming to see Maitreya, he wanted to know about the Lord. He wanted to know about Lord Krishna, what had happened, and of course he wanted to know what was the message which Lord Krishna had given Maitreya for him. But Vidura, he didn't immediately, tell me, I have to know this. He begins on a more common platform, something which common people would be able to appreciate. Because Prabhupada said a common man cannot understand the Lord. He must first know the real position of life. So this is so true, get people to understand the nature of the material world. To try to teach them about Krishna until they've understood the soul will be very difficult. First people have to understand who they are, and then they can understand more about Krishna, the position of Lord Krishna. So Vidura begins in this way, and he describes about Vidura, you can see in text number 3, great philanthropic souls travel on the earth on behalf of the Supreme Lord to show compassion to the fallen souls who are averse to the sense of subordination to the Lord. So Vidura, he was that kind of person. And we saw in the first canto how Maharaj Yudhisthira greeted Vidura when he came there in Hastinapur. Vidura says to him that you are the personification of the holy places because you carry the Lord within your heart. How does it, you know that verse? It's in the first canto, it's a nice verse, I'm forgetting now. Anyway, Vidura, Maharaj Yudhisthira glorifies Vidura, that you are the personification of the holy place. It's the devotees which make a holy place. It's not the place themselves, but it's because the devotees are there. Certain quality of devotees are in these holy places that make it a holy place. And so that's an important point which people often don't understand. They just come and they take bath in the water and they may take the dust from the holy place. But what makes that dust so special is that the pure devotees have touched that dust. It's not the dust itself, but it's the devotees who've touched that dust that make it special. So the devotees like Vidura, they're traveling around. But Vidura, he's glorifying other devotees, he's glorifying Maitreya. Bhavad-vidya Bhagavatas Tirtha Bhuta Swayambhavo Tirti Kurvanti Tirtani Swantastena Gadaprataha. This is the verse in the first canto. This is the verse spoken by Maharaj Yudhisthira. Swantas Tirti Kurvanti Tirtani Swantastena Gadaprataha. You're the personification of the holy places, Tirtha. Tirtha can also mean the devotee, the powerful spiritual teacher. He is also Tirtha. He is also like a holy place. So that word Tirtha can refer to the person, not just the place. So Vidura asked Maitreya to give some instruction. You can see there, please give me instructions on what? The transcendental devotional service of the Lord, so that he who is situated in the heart of everyone can be pleased to impart from within knowledge of the Absolute Truth in terms of the ancient Vedic principles, delivered only to those who are purified by the process of devotional service. So in this purport, Prabhupada brings up when Prabhupada brings up the different processes of different levels of practicing sadhana bhakti. And he says there's Vaidhi Bhakti, and then there's also Raga Bhakti. Right? We've learned this in the Nectar of Devotion. So, Vaidhi Bhakti, following the different rules and regulations. That, of course, is where we begin our devotional service, at that level. So it's defined in the scriptures like that. But if we practice these different rules and regulations, said Prabhupada writes, the practice helps the neophyte devotee to rise to the stage of Raga Bhakti, in which the Lord responds from within as the Chaitya Guru, or the spiritual master, as super consciousness. So Raga Bhakti, spontaneous devotion, where one is actually engaging in devotional service without thinking about the rule. You know, we chant Hare Krishna, oh, I better chant, my Guru said I have to chant, oh, I better get up, Mangal Arti, my Guru said I should get up and go to Mangal Arti. We do things, some impulses, it's not very impulsive, it's more out of obedience to some authority. But Raga Bhakti is different. In Raga Bhakti, you're not thinking, oh, I have to do this. You naturally do it. We give the example like waking up in the morning. In the beginning, you'd have a clock, an alarm clock, wake you up. But then after some time, you don't need the alarm clock. You just wake up naturally. And you want to get up and you want to chant. Of course, even though it's cold in the mornings, oh, I don't know if I want to get up this morning, it's cold, oh, maybe there's no hot water, usually, difficult to get hot water in some of these places. You think, I'll wait till the sun comes up and then get up. So that's not Raga. Raga Bhakti is spontaneous, with enthusiasm. We want to do these things. We're in, as Prabhupada says here, the Lord from within the heart, within the devotee is inspired by the direction of the Lord from within. So that is Raga Bhakti. And that doesn't mean you neglect the rules and regulations. One will naturally follow the rules and regulations without thinking about it. It's not like, oh, I'm on Raga Bhakti, so I can take tea and coffee and I can eat, any garbage that comes along. Anyway, I'm a Raga Bhakta. No. Naturally, you'll follow the rules and regulations. But you do it without thinking. There's no question of just being, I have to do it, or I'm ordered to do it. But naturally one does it out of love. And Prabhupada makes the point about only the devotees make a distinction between the soul and the super soul. all the other transcendentalists, all the other so-called spiritual groups, they're also transcendentalists. They're Mayavadis, Jnanavadis, like that. They don't make any distinction between the soul and the super soul. So they don't properly understand the nature of super consciousness. And because they don't have the proper information and understanding about the individual soul, they're not able to get any direction from the super soul. Because they're thinking, I am the Lord. Right? They're thinking, we're all one with they think we're all one with the Supreme. So they don't get any direction, because they're thinking themselves to be the Supreme. So that's the problem with the impersonal philosophy. Alright, so Vidura goes on questioning. He wants to know about the Supreme Lord, how He accepts incarnations and creates a cosmic manifestation. So, this was one of the points which came up, and he wants to know about the Purusha avatars particularly. And we're going to hear about that, how Karanarnavashayi or Karanarnavashayi Vishnu, or simply Mahavishnu, how he arranges for the creation of the cosmic manifestation. So this is one of the topics which will be explained in this chapter. And Prabhupada elaborates on the nature of the creation, that the material nature is not independent, but it's created by the Lord. And in the purport, Prabhupada brings up an interesting discussion. He said actually everything is provided by the arrangement of the Lord. And the material universes are full in themselves. He said there is no scarcity for maintenance in the material world. You go to some countries where they promote atheism. You know, generally socialist countries promote atheism. They will not encourage the people to be religious. And they have policy, they have laws, for some time, not now, but in the past, in China, for several years, for many years, they had a one-child policy. The couples were only allowed to have one child, and that was the law. And the reason was overpopulation, and that we have too many people in the country, and it will be difficult to feed everyone. And so this is, of course, a common problem. People think like that, less intelligent people. They think that, oh, there's not enough food, or how will you manage? They're thinking like this. So, Prabhupada dealt with this issue in several places. He was in Switzerland also. Prabhupada had gone to Geneva for, I think it was 8 days or so. And during that time, he had also dealt with this issue about overpopulation, and there's not enough food for everyone. And Prabhupada talks about how the elephant needs many kilos of food to eat every day. But the elephants are not starving. You know, you go to countries where there are elephants, wild elephants, You've got them in Africa, you've got them in parts of China, elephants, in India also elephants. They get their food, they manage to eat. Everything is provided by the grace of God. And the little insects, tiny insects, there's a lot of them here in Mayapur, right? You get a lot of ants sometimes, the ants all come, they invade you, and they're getting their food also. They're not starving, they get something to eat. Maybe they bite you and eat something, get some flesh from you or something. But they all get some food. They're all living by the grace of the Supreme Lord. Everything is provided for them by the arrangement of the Supreme Lord. And Prabhupada said, you can see here in the purport, it is only human society that is disturbed about the food situation, and to cover up the real fact of administrative mismanagement, take shelter in the plea that the population is excessively increasing. Actually, some countries are worried that they're not able to get enough population. In some parts of the world, they encourage people to have more children, but people don't want to do it. Of course, the reason being, of course, the financial responsibilities, the pressures of bringing up children make it very difficult to raise children. To take the responsibility to bring up children, to pay for their education, and to take care of them. Because nowadays, most of the world, you find women all working. The men are working, and the women are also working. And where are the children? Well, sometimes they get a babysitter coming from, Bangladesh or somewhere, or Nepali babysitter to come and look after the children, and the mother goes off to work, and the father's also working. And then they pay something to the babysitter, and the children, they're with the babysitter. And then when the children go up and go to school, then after school they go to the tuition center to help them do the homework. So things like that are going on in the world. It's all, again, their economic desires. They're so anxious to have more money. They're thinking, oh no, we have to work, we need more money. If we don't have the money, how we can maintain the family? And the family are being deprived. But you go in the villages here in India. I was just traveling in India, South India. I was in Telangana, which before it was all part of Andhra Pradesh. They divided it into 2 states. And so I was in some village areas there, and I saw so many children. And so many children were there. And ladies were also there, the mothers. They were not going off to work. If they went to work, they went into the fields and helped, harvest something, or to plant the rice. But actually, there's no real need for that. We've created this artificial environment. Everybody working, women all going to work. It's not really the way it's meant to be. What is the dharma for a woman? Women are not meant to be Kshatriya, Vaishya or Brahmins, that's not for women, that's for men. The 4 varnas were created for men, not for women. There's a different way of life for women. So Prabhupada said the real scarcity is God consciousness. That's the real problem. not enough God consciousness. That's what we're lacking. There's enough food. Okay, so going ahead, let's see what happens. And the Vidura talks about the Supreme Lord, how he's Vidura himself introduces the subject matter of creation, how the Lord expands into many living entities, different species of life, and he doesn't have to endeavor for his maintenance, and he's different from all the living entities. So then in the purport, Prabhupada talks how Srimad Bhagavatam, there are different explanations about creation. You've already studied creation in the second canto, right?
Yes.
How many times? It was only one time or twice? How many times was creation described? Huh? Only once?
Universal form 2 times, but creation 1 time.
Just one time? It's certainly going to be described here. What did you say 2 times? What?
The
Universal form.
A universal form, the creation of the universal form. Okay. So Prabhupada discusses here in the purport, said different explanations are given. It's not always just the same, exactly what happens, described in different ways. And Srila Prabhupada explains that this is because it has been described in different millenniums, or different days of Brahma, different kalpas. Kalpa, days of Brahma. So different. Basically the principles are the same, but there's some difference in the details. Prabhupada said, no difference regarding the creative principle and the Lord's control over them, but some differences in the details because of different kalpas. Okay. So that's fair enough. Prabhupada quotes the Sarvam Kalvidam Brahma. This is, of course, Mayavadi. Everything is Brahman. Everything is Brahman. So, beginning from the sky, the first material manifestation down to the earth, everything is Brahman. Nothing but the Lord. He is one without a second. So Vidura invites Maitreya to tell him about the characteristics of the Lord in his different incarnations. And he said, our minds are never satisfied, because although we continuously hear of his transcendental activities, our minds are never completely satisfied. And Prabhupada talks, this is the nature of transcendental knowledge, that although one has heard about these things before, that one's is happy to hear about them more and more, because the more we hear about them, the more pleasure we get, the deeper our appreciation for these things come. And Vidura talks about, he says, the demigods, the cows, and the twice-born. For the Lord incarnates for their purpose, for their pleasure. And Prabhupada discusses about these different things. the cows, and he talks about how the cows are important in the society. He says they supply milk, which is so important. And the bulls are also important. We have to use the bull, make use of the bulls, for not only for plowing the fields, but also transportation. And the demigods, they're also important. We have to respect the demigods. They're responsible for the affairs of the universe. But behind everything, the whole purpose is self-realization. We want to understand that the real purpose of this creation is to help us to become self-realized, not just simply to satisfy our senses. And then the Prabhupada brings up the topic about hearing. Well, it was mentioned, a devotee takes pleasure in hearing. And where do we hear from? We want to hear from the literature, from the scriptures. Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, they never become old. And so many books everywhere, and you see these bookshops, they have all so many books. There's the books for the crows and the books for the swans, right? What is that verse in Srimad Bhagavatam? Translation?
Those words which do not describe the glories of the personality of Godhead, which alone can sanctify the whole universe, are considered by saintly persons like places of pilgrimage for crows. Although such persons are residents of the transcendental abode, and they do not derive any pleasure there.
Yeah. Right. There's tirthas, the place of pilgrimage for the crows, right? What's the Sanskrit for that? Tadvayasam tirtham. Yeah, Tadvayasam tirtham. The place of pilgrimage for the crows. Transcendentalists will not get any pleasure there. Well, you can see that in Calcutta. Common. The crows come. They get the dead rat, and it's a feast. The crows come. And so, the literature for the crow-like people and literature for the swans. So there's a big difference, a big powerful difference between these two classes of literature. They are ever fresh to the learned scholars and devotees. And even by daily repetition of the verses, there is no satiation for devotees like Vidura. Prabhupada said, Vidura must have heard the pastimes of the Lord many times before he met Maitreya, but still he wanted the same narrations to be repeated, because he was never satiated by hearing them. Just like Prabhupada would have devotees read Krishna book to him, and Prabhupada wrote the Krishna book, but still he would take pleasure in hearing it, reading it. So like that hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, taking pleasure in these things, created. Alright, so Vidura continues. It talks about different planets, different places, different kinds of kings and rulers. And Prabhupada talks about how you go up to heavenly planets, and you've got the demigods there, and you can go down to Patala Loka, the lower planets. You've got places where it's all ice, and you've got places where it's all dark and no sunlight. right? Then the lower regions of the universe, there's no sunlight, Patala Loka, these kind of places. So all within the universe there's many different varieties of existence, different conditions. Some living entities live in luxury and others live in abject poverty in very difficult conditions. So the Lord created the universe in such a way that all different kinds of people, different according to their qualification, they can all be accommodated. So Vidura, he wants Maitreya to describe all of these things. Yes? Yeah?
So there are more. Now always Prabhupada says the literature, but now also there are more media. Can we say literature? Does that mean any could be music, movies, classes?
Well, literature generally means reading material. Other things like movies and things like that, that's more entertainment rather than literature. Literature, we're talking about the written word. I think when we talk about literature, we think of a specific category. It's not just simply entertainment, things for pleasure, watch movies and these kind of things. That's not literature. They may take the content of the movie from the literature, but still there's a difference in the subject matter. The quality of understanding. Common people, what is their newspapers? They're very fond of newspapers. Not so much nowadays, because now you get everything in the mobile networks. But it's the same kind of thing, the same sort of information. What is popular in the mobile networks today, should be a very short thing, shouldn't be too long, and it shouldn't be too dry, it should be entertaining. That's not literature. Literature is for a particular class of people, but still, as we said, there's literature for the crows and literature for the swans. There are different kinds of people. So they get according to their qualification.
Yeah, okay, Mark. I'm asking because at least from where I am, hardly anyone reads. That's why I'm asking this question.
Yeah, we know that's a problem. People have become so lazy. A lot of people, they don't like to read. Even some people are not even educated to read. That problem has always been there. But there's a particular level in society where people will read. There are people who like to read. But unfortunately, it's just unfortunate that some people who like to read, they will just read garbage literature. What do they read? Young children, they read Harry Potter. Right? Very famous, Harry Potter. There's an English woman invented this fictitious boy. He was a schoolboy and did all kinds of mystical things, So people love to read it. Millions of copies all over the world, and the woman got so many awards and everything for providing entertainment for people. So reading it's a bit better than just watching movies, you know, Bollywood movies or some other kind of thing like that. There's a particular standard, higher caliber of people will read. And people don't read. Yeah, they're just so lazy. They don't want to use their intelligence. They'll watch movies, they'll gamble, they'll smoke and drink. Read, oh no. That's something else. That's another whole big change in the lifestyle. But literature, there is a difference in literature. So we're trying to encourage people to read by distributing books, by giving out our books, you know, just putting out more books that some people who never read before, they will read, and they will find out about Krishna consciousness. And certainly it happens. We see a lot of people who come to Krishna consciousness, they came because they got a book. And the people who got the book, they were not necessarily avid readers, but somehow they got the book, and they read it, the book, and it changed their life. So we're trying to influence people in that way, trying to give them that, encourage them in that way that they should read. But they should read something which is worthwhile. Let them hear from the pure devotees. Okay? So then Vidura asks about Lord Narayan and his different activities. Talks about that. He said also, Prabhupada makes a remark in the purport, the higher classes of men are white and the lower classes of men are black. This division of black and white in terms of one's black and white duties of life. So we're not talking about the color of the skin, but we're talking about the duties of life. So people who have a more pious nature, they will be engaged in higher duties of life. So Vidura wants to know about these differences. I've heard about different statues from the mouth of Vyasadeva, and I am quite satiated with all these lesser subject matters and their happiness. They have not satisfied me with the nectar of topics about Krishna. Right? What's he talking about? What's he been hearing about? What is not satisfied Vidura? Huh? Why was he not satisfied? What was he hearing about?
Lesser subject matter.
Yeah, where was he hearing it from?
Yes.
Yes. This is coming up here, this discussion about the Mahabharata and books such as the Puranas and Mahabharata. And Prabhupada said, these books are reading matter for the mass of people, and they were compiled with a view to reviving God consciousness, now forgotten in the conditional life of material existence. So Mahabharata, should we teach it? Do you have a class on Mahabharata every day? No. Should we? Would it be an advantage to have a class on Mahabharata every day? No. There may be some advantage for some people. For some people there would be an advantage. What kind of people?
Non-devotees.
yeah. Non-devotees. Will it make them devotees?
They fall in love with Krishna. Hear Bhagavad Gita.
Jiva Goswami said no one develops Krishna prema from reading Mahabharata. But still, there are some good things. Mahabharata. And Prabhupada at one point even mentioned that he would translate Mahabharata. Of course, now we have Vidwan Gauranga Prabhu. He's doing a verse-by-verse translation of Ramayana. Ramayana, many volumes, 24,000 verses. So, Ramayana, Mahabharata, these books, they're very popular, you know. You do a book fair in India and people will all come, they want, what do they ask for? They will ask, have you got Mahabharata? They like Mahabharata, Ramayana, especially now with the new temple at Ayodhya, everybody's become a Ram Bhakta, you know, Ramachandra Bhagavan ki, you know, and many more Ram Bhaktas than ever, and people are interested in Ramayana, you know, because of the new temple. It's kind of awakened them a bit. But they will definitely get much more from Srimad Bhagavatam. But not everyone's ready to hear Srimad Bhagavatam. It's difficult, a bit difficult for the devotees. And we see within our own society how it's difficult for devotees sometimes to study the Mahabharata, to study rather Srimad Bhagavatam. We say, oh, so philosophical. So Mahabharata, it can help to bring people in. It can awaken their interest in at least they can develop a hearing taste. By hearing, what will they hear from Mahabharata? They'll hear about all the different intrigues of the palace and the karmakandi rituals and the different things which happen. So many great sages and so it can awaken people.
The question is, you said Jiva Goswami says no one can develop Krishna prema from reading Mahabharata, but then we find the Bhagavad Gita's and Mahabharata and Srila Prabhupada explains that everything is in the Bhagavad Gita.
Everything is in the Bhagavad Gita. Yes, well, everything is in the Bhagavad Gita to a certain level. You know, up to a certain level it's there, but you want to go higher, then there are higher subjects. Srimad Bhagavatam is a graduate study. Chaitanya Charitamrita is a postgraduate study. You can go on and on, you see, and it's not everything is there in Bhagavad Gita, it's how, of course, it's how you read it. You know, the great sages will read the Bhagavad Gita and they may find everything there, and may find also the highest levels of love of God are also there in Bhagavad Gita. You have to read it between the lines. And Prabhupada would discuss the Bhagavad Gita with his godbrothers sometimes. They would discuss about what is the meaning of this verse. But generally, you know, Bhagavad Gita is the basic knowledge, and it's explained everything there briefly. But the Srimad Bhagavatam expands it. So everything is there, but it's condensed. Like Vedanta Sutra, everything is there, but it's condensed. It's very condensed. So who understands Vedanta Sutra? You know, there's so many Mayavadis are speculating on the Vedanta Sutra, trying to understand it. They can't come to any conclusion. What is the real meaning of Vedanta? Vedanta, the end of knowledge, but it's a sutra, it's condensed. So it's difficult to understand what is the real meaning. But Srimad Bhagavatam is a commentary on the Vedanta. They would read Srimad Bhagavatam, that's the commentary, but the impersonalists, they won't accept that. they'll follow Shankaracharya. Shankaracharya wrote commentary on Vedanta, and they will read that and try to speculate what is the meaning. Anyway, Mahabharata, popular and profited. Why is it so important? Because Bhagavad Gita is there in the Mahabharata. And just like some time ago they had a drama, it came to New York, it was the Mahabharata. And they were presenting the whole drama of Mahabharata. But the whole thing about Krishna and the Bhagavad Gita was very small. It was hardly even given any a real focus, you know. If you watch Mahabharata movies, also if you watch, it was serialized on television, and if you see these, you know, they don't give a lot of importance to Krishna. You know, they're more focused on all the dramas and the love and the intrigues and the quarrels and everything. So we have to hear things like Mahabharata. You have to hear it from the devotee to understand what's really important. So the important thing is to hear about Krishna consciousness. So Vidura is saying to Maitreya, he's tired of hearing about politics and all the social issues which are being taught, and he wants to hear about the Supreme Lord. He wants to understand more about the Lord. But common people, they like to hear Mahabharata. They will read Ramayana, they will read Mahabharata. Get them to read Srimad Bhagavatam. Oh, they might become detached if they read the Srimad. They might lose their taste for enjoying material life if they have to hear Srimad Bhagavatam. So they don't want to do that. So Prabhupada discusses quite a bit here about the importance of hearing Krishna Katha. And this is the way we can change the people. Let the people hear some Krishna Katha and it can change their life. And Prabhupada said two important kathas, Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam. And he said, Lord Chaitanya advised all his disciples to preach Krishna Katha all over the world without discrimination, because the transcendental value of Krishna Katha can purify one and all from material contamination. So this is the benefit of Krishna Katha. So we're trying to encourage them, speaking Krishna Katha, let people hear more. In the next verse, Vidura speaks more about the effect of hearing Krishna Katha. He said, it can cut off one's bondage to family affection simply by entering the holes of one's ears. So that's a powerful benefit of hearing. Not everybody wants that, of course. No, I don't want, I have to give up my family. No, not that you have to give up your family, but we have to purify the affection which we have. The affection for the family can be there, but the affection should be on the spiritual platform. It shouldn't be based on the material platform, just simply centered around money and wealth. Nowadays, you know, when they arrange the marriage, not only nowadays, all for years it's always been like that. When they arrange the marriages for the girl, you know, oh, he has to have money. If there's no money, oh, no good, you know. He may be a drunkard and a meat eater, but if he has money, you think, oh, he's a good man. He has a good job. He works in the multinational corporation. Oh, he drinks like a fish and he smokes like a chimney and he eats meat like a pig, you know. But, oh, he's got money, you know. They don't care anything about the character, you know. So, these are some of the problems. So hearing Krishna Katha can definitely help. So powerful. Simply by entering the ears can deliver us from the bondage of family. Bondage, that's the point. We should not be in bondage. And we can be attached to the family, but we shouldn't be in bondage. The affection should be based on how to actually benefit the family, giving proper benefit to them, helping them to come to God consciousness.
Well,
Yeah?
Bhagavad makes a very strong statement here. He says, it is the only impetus for all mundane activities. As long as there is mundane activity and the mind is absorbed in such engagement, one has to undergo repetition of birth and death. Very strong statement.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, repetition, birth and death. Yes, that's what happens.
So how do we get Howard to understand that? You explained briefly that if someone's situated in a family life, like if they're a devotee, how is that? That's a very different situation than what Prabhupada's referring to here.
Oh yes. Yeah, we shouldn't think that because you're in family life that you're doomed. When we look at the Mahajans, several of them were in family life. You know? More about how many? We go through the Mahajans, maybe about 6 or more, at least half of them.
Seven.
7 out of 12 were in Grihastha. Yeah, but they were transcendentalists, they were fixed on the transcendental platform. So, yeah, I mean, definitely, we have some very advanced devotees in our movement who are in family life, you know. We certainly shouldn't discriminate against people just on that basis. What's important is that they have to know the science of Krishna. How did Ramananda Rai describe it? Kiva Vitra, Kiva Nasi? Ye Krishna Tattvavet, say Guru. So one who knows the science of Krishna, they can be the spiritual master. Doesn't matter what is their position socially. Ramananda Rai was such an elevated devotee, he was in family life, and he was not born in any Brahmana family or anything, but Lord Chaitanya was inquiring from him. So it was Chaitanya Mahaprabhu who actually said that. Because Ramananda Rai was objecting that you're a sannyasi, you're asking me questions, I should be asking you. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, no, he said, because you know the science of Krishna. So I want to hear it from you. So that's important. So devotees, so Prabhupada talks about the influence of the modes and how it affects people in different ways. Mundane goodness can enlighten one that the body and the self are different. But one goodness is concerned with the self and not the body. But due to being contaminated, those in mundane goodness cannot understand the real nature of the self. So we want to come to transcendental goodness, right? pure goodness, without the influence of passion and ignorance. And we can do that just simply by being attracted to Krishna Katha. The more you're attached to hearing the topics of Krishna, and hearing means also reading these books and hearing, it's a process. This is the remedy for the world. And Prabhupada said, this is the greatest missionary activity. And all sensible men and women may join in this great movement started by Lord Chaitanya. So modern mission, Prabhupada's modern mission is being presented there to preach Krishna Katha all over the world. So Vidura is still talking about the Mahabharata, and Vidura must have read the Mahabharata, you see, or he must have heard the Mahabharata. And he says to Maitreya, I said, your friend, because he knows Vyasadeva and Maitreya, they have that friendly, they're both connected to Parasara Muni. So he has described the Lord, he's described the qualities of the Lord in the Mahabharata. But the whole idea is to draw the attention to Krishna Katha. Through their strong affinity for hearing mundane topics. So this is the whole purpose of the Mahabharata, hearing the Mahabharata. Get them to hear Krishna Katha, particularly the Bhagavad Gita. What is the disadvantage of hearing Mahabharata? What's the harm? Is there any harm in hearing Mahabharata?
You said disadvantage to hearing? Not hard, yeah. It has a lot of, if you can get you sidetracked onto demigods or karmakanda activities.
Yeah, right. There's a lot of other things there, right? And hearing about the different demigods and the rituals and the things which they're doing and the quarreling and arguing and so many different issues. Well, Draupadi could take 5 husbands, so maybe I can also have a few husbands myself. What ladies could think like that, and men could also think, you could share a wife, Be easier to maintain all the brothers together, we can all maintain her. Try to imitate, we could misunderstand these kind of situations, try to put them into our own sense gratification. But it's really meant for encouraging us to inquire more about the Absolute Truth. We want to understand more the nature of the Supreme Lord and our relationship with Him. So Prabhupada said, such misguided persons. Who are these misguided persons? If they try to understand Vedanta without reference to Srimad Bhagavatam, they are misguided. So such misguided persons who are interested in the mundane affairs, again this Mahabharata, mundane affairs of philanthropic and altruistic work under the misconception of the body as the self, they could better take advantage of the Mahabharata. So the Mahabharata is better than just being engaged in mundane, anthropic and altruistic work. Because Mahabharata was compiled by Vyasadeva for their benefit. And he's compiled the Mahabharata in such a way that the less intelligent class of men, more interested in mundane topics, may read the Mahabharata and in course of such happiness take advantage of Bhagavad Gita. And then go on to the study of Srimad Bhagavatam or Vedanta Sutra. And Prabhupada said, Vyasadeva had no interest in writing a history of mundane activities. Like Mahabharata history, it's actually a history, the battle and what happened, how the battle came about. But Prabhupada said, Vyasadeva had no interest in writing a history of mundane activities. His purpose was to give a chance for people to hear Bhagavad Gita, to get some transcendental realization. But this is important for us to understand. Hearing Krishna Katha gradually increases indifference towards all other things. You have the experience of that, coming to Krishna consciousness. Huh? You don't have so much interest anymore in the mundane world. We hope. Right? You lose your attraction for the material things in life.
Is this Vidura speaking?
Yeah, this is still Vidura speaking. So hearing about Krishna is so important. And here he talks about people who are ignorant of the purpose of the Mahabharata are pitied by the pitiable. Again, the purpose of the Mahabharata was to awaken us, but it doesn't always happen like that, unless you're properly guided by devotee. So hearing Mahabharata, if you hear from some mundane person, some politician or something, they may write their Mahabharata, but they will just they don't understand the position of Krishna. And Prabhupada gave the example how there was this one man who was the president of India, and he had written a Bhagavad Gita, then it was part of a Mahabharata, they'd written these things, but they had not properly presented the position of Krishna. So again, Prabhupada brings up the subject matter of the three modes of nature and how the people in different levels will relate to the Supreme in different ways. Some people will worship the impersonal Brahman, some people will worship demigods, some people will desire to become one with the Supreme. Different modes of natures will affect them in different ways. Prabhupada said that the pitiable impersonalists pity those who are influenced by passion and ignorance, but the pure devotee of the Lord takes pity on them. The devotees, we pity the impersonalists because both waste their valuable time. I was there were these two Ramakrishna sannyasis. They were coming, and I happened to meet them, talk a little bit to them. You know, they're generally Jnanavadis, Ramakrishna mission, Jnanavadis. They speak on the Upanishads. They're not so fond of Mahabharata or Srimad Bhagavatam. They will speak on the Upanishads, Jnanavadis. So, they have their opinion, you know, they just think about liberation, oneness. In Bengal, they're very powerful. They've got 200 centers all over India. And they've got centers in foreign countries also. But there's a lot of motive, passion and ignorance there. Not even vegetarian. Okay, so just to finish, I think this is the last verse of Maitreya. Vidura's questions. He said, just like bees collect honey, kindly describe the essence of the topics of the Lord. Kindly chant about the glories of the Supreme Lord and how He has created this cosmic manifestation. Alright? So have a break for Gayatri now. 12 o'clock. Let's have a break. 10